Hey everybody, and welcome to a Mac addiction. Wow, that would be bad. A Mac edition of highly disputed the Lloyd and Liam NFL show. Which unfortunately we do not have Lloyd with us this evening because the hospital called in. It's a special Mac edition because the UB cross country team will be traveling to Bowling Green for their Mac championships this weekend. Something that was questionable on whether or not it actually wind up happening. Liam, how's the team feeling heading into it?
I think they're excited. Todd is trying his best to not be antsy, but I don't think he's slept in 2 days. So I think the goal is just get there in one piece and do what's got to be done.
Seamus, how we feeling? How do you think UB's going to be doing going into it?
I mean, I feel like every year now the expectations to win. I mean, it's always for the last couple of years it seemed like a three-horse race between UB, Miami, and Eastern Michigan. And with this being a weird year, you never know how teams have been training, what teams' time trials have looked like. We know what the UB team looks like. Quality up 1 through 10 there. I don't know. I think they got a real shot.
Well, what we can, as Seamus, you and I as alumni, and Liam as the fifth year, we can only hope that all the work that we set, laying the groundwork, can officially.
Oh yeah.
We will be the reason if they win that.
Oh yeah, my one whole MAC championship appearance.
Okay. Well, I'm sure cross country doesn't make for a wonderful podcast, so let's get on to our NFL show. So let's briefly do a recap on our hot takes. I was not that close, but also not that far. I was kind of in the middle on mine, where I said that Kyler Murray and Josh Allen would combine for, did I say 900 yards of total offense plus 8 touchdowns? I mean, it was a barn burner. It was a very fun game to watch.
Right?
I think
7 touchdowns total, I think.
Yep, 7 touchdowns, and I think they combined for about 700 yards of offense.
Yeah, something like that.
It's just a really hot take.
Yeah, if only I would have said 800, I wouldn't have sounded as crazy. Liam, how'd your hot take wind up?
I said Kyler Murray was going to get picked a lot. That didn't really happen. Now, it would have helped. Yeah, I think he got the one because Larry Fitzgerald is the GOAT and had to get his hands underneath that ball. I don't know. Maybe if they had picked it at the end and he had 2, I would have felt a little bit better about it. But I just get sick thinking about that game. But yeah, my pick didn't go right. Never bet against Kyler Murray, I guess, is the lesson.
Don't worry. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that Bills game in a few minutes. Seamus, want to update us on yours?
I don't remember what I picked. I think I picked Justin Herbert and co. to beat Miami by 10. I should have written it down, but I'm going to say that that's what I picked, and I was wrong because Miami continues this just unreasonable stretch of spotting Tua 10-0 leads with their defense and special teams. So I guess I just can't pick against Brian Flores anymore because apparently he's going to win Coach of the Year, and it's not going to be close. I guess. So I don't know. It is.
I mean, if the Steelers go 16-0, they got to pick Tomlin, right? I mean, right?
Yeah. Tomlin, I feel like never gets the respect he deserves with that award. I feel like all the time everyone's like, "Oh, it's Big Ben. Oh, they had an easy schedule, whatever." But at some point, you got to be like, Mike Tomlin gets this group up to play every week, and they win every week.
Yeah, I feel like with Big Ben coming off of an injury, they had lost over the past couple of years. They lost Bell, they lost Brown. They had so many injuries last year, not even from the quarterback position, just in general. And the fact that they've been putting this together the past couple of weeks. I mean, 16-0. If they go 16-0, I think they give it to them. If the Dolphins get to 11 or 12 wins, definitely Flores.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, they're not going to go 16-0. They're at the very worst going to be 15-1 after they run by the Buffalo Bills, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. So, we'll just pick this up starting. We just picked a random game, so we figured that we'd talk Seahawks-Rams mainly because of the implications that game had. The Seahawks are 6-3. The Rams were 6-3. The Rams wound up beating the Seahawks 23-16, so that makes 2 losses in a row for the Seahawks. Oh, and quick little piggyback. Mike Tomlin is the most underrated head coach in the past 20 years. I would 100% agree with that statement.
Yeah, and people don't remember too that Bill Cowher picked him as appointed him essentially as the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and to get picked to be in that situation, I think means a lot, and I think people never really gave him the respect he deserved on that front for just being put in that situation.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Okay. Anyways, back to our little shakeup in the NFC West. So now we have 3 teams in the NFC West, but specifically with the Rams and Seahawks. Seamus, what did that game tell us?
I don't know if I learned a ton. So, I'll admit I watched the compressed game Tuesday, and the thing that I guess I was surprised at was LA got up pretty comfortably early, running the ball pretty effectively. But then Seattle never really seemed to get much going on offense. And I know Aaron Donald is a game wrecker there on the defensive line, and Jalen Ramsey did an excellent job on DK Metcalf. I think that maybe is the big takeaway, is that the right corner can neutralize Metcalf. But even then, it was a really herky-jerky game. There really wasn't a lot of flow to it. I don't know really if you can take away much other than that. Now it seems like these last 2 Seahawks, Cardinals, and Rams matchups have implications that go beyond just the division, but for the 1 seed in the wild card, I think, too. We'll get to it later, but I think Arizona-Seattle tonight ultimately now, that's the loser is in dire straits game now for getting to host a playoff game.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a fun spot to look at moving forward. Liam, so as Bills fans, we were more than thrilled to have beaten the Seahawks, but now, so it's weird. We beat the Rams, we beat the Seahawks. Everyone would have usually argued that the Seahawks was the more impressive win, but even though it was only a 1-score game, the Rams really made it look easy against the Seahawks. Are the Rams good? Are the Seahawks not as good? Or is this just division football?
I think it's a really interesting concept, or just what's going on with that division, because there's so many big name free agents that moved around. You've got D-Hop to the Cardinals. You've got Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams on the Seahawks. You think, oh, well, they've added these 2 Pro Bowl guys. Now their defense is going to get better. Doesn't happen. You add D-Hop to the Cardinals offense, they get transformed. So it's kind of hit or miss with all these free agents, and these teams are kind of still trying to figure out their identity. I still think the Seahawks are good. I am not a slave to recency bias. I still think they're going to win that division. I think if their defense can keep other teams to less than 20 points, I think they've got a really good chance of winning games. The Seahawks have, I believe, the easiest remaining schedule in the entire National Football League, including several games against the NFC least and our own New York Jets. So I think they're just going to go on a tear. Hopefully Russell just puts up 40 fantasy points every night. Plus, I'm still not completely sold on Kyler Murray being better than Russell Wilson. I'm, again, not recency bias. I think he's going to be the MVP. I think this is just a short little blip. SportsCenter wants to talk about somebody else. They like talking about Kyler, I guess. Apparently he wants to play baseball now. That's what I heard today, so whatever.
He's going to be a regular Deion Sanders and
Bo Jackson.
Those
are the 2 guys they were talking about. But, they were talking about the differences. If he were to play baseball, he wouldn't even come into spring. He wouldn't even come into the OTAs until October.
Yeah.
If you were continuing a season in MLB. So, it would be ridiculous if your quarterback wasn't there. It's one thing for a running back to just be plugged in. You're just going to run straight. You already know the plays. But, you need the quarterback to go through these repetitions and get your timing down. You can't just have him show up.
Can I also just comment? I loved your little comment of NFC least. That alone.
I heard that somewhere else. Yeah, I just think that's the best. It's the perfect it's the perfect knock on them that they are the NFC least. And it's so weird too that like the Dallas Cowboys have historically, even though they flop in the playoffs, they've been a pretty good winning team. They've had winning records, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Like this isn't the worst division in football.
The Giants have won 2 Super Bowls in the last 12 years.
Yep.
Yeah, like really the only team that hasn't been pulling their weight in that division is the Redskins or the football team. And the football team has had, here's I don't want to talk about bold takes yet, but mine's going to include Alex Smith. I think that team could turn it around a little bit. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I actually think the Giants.
I think you just got to get to, at this point, the expected win total for that division is the Cowboys at like 5 wins. I mean, I really think 5 wins gets you a playoff spot.
That's going to be the record, right? Like, it's got to be – I think the record's like 7, right?
I mean, Philly's schedule is brutal the rest of the way. And they're on paper the best team in that division in terms of health now. But, I mean, they got to win I still think they play like the Seahawks. I still think they play the Saints.
Well, so the way this works is that the best – like the most wins any team in that division could get at this rate is 9 wins. If one team just won out, the best that any team could do is 9 wins right now. And we are entering week 11.
Maybe though.
It's that actually might be one of the more entertaining divisions just because like how much of a dumpster fire could it be?
How many out of division wins do they even have? Like if we're halfway through the season and they've got 2 wins, 2 to 3 wins, like it's looking like they only beat themselves.
The New York Giants are 3-7, and their division record is 3-2. They've only beaten people within their own division.
That's phenomenal.
I mean, the Daniel Jones effect. Only beat bad teams and have the potential to beat other teams, but fumble it away or pick it away.
Oh, Daniel Jones, you and your
They picked him over some people too. I don't remember who went after him, but
was that the Kyler Murray year?
Yeah,
he was 1.
Yeah,
that was Murray
at like 6 or something, or they like either they went up to get him or they were supposed to pick somebody else and they ended up picking up, and everybody was like, who?
5. Yeah, they picked him at 5. I'm pretty sure.
Dwayne Haskins. This actually is not that deep of a quarterback year.
Last year wasn't a good year for quarterbacks. The only other guy who I think played from that year is Minshew.
Yep.
I would have taken Minshew over Jones.
Oh, Jarrett Stidham was a 4th rounder.
Hey.
I don't need to see Stidham play, period.
And the Philadelphia Eagles took Clayton Thorson of Northwestern in the 5th round. So.
Thorson is not on the team anymore.
Well,
I was rooting for him.
So then, especially now with the we'll kind of dance this around a smidge. Just going back to the NFC West, you have 3 teams at 6-3, and then the 49ers who they're 4-6, but I mean they still have a positive point differential. So like.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that comes from that blowout of New England and blowing out the Jets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like 90% of their roster is hurt. So,
but oddly
I don't know what's in the water. I don't know what's in the water in San Francisco. Probably ash.
Yeah.
But ash.
What's funny though is that they are they are not even the team that's scored the least amount of points in the NFC West because that's the Rams.
The Rams, yeah, that's what I.
I think the book's kind of out on Goff now, which is that like you rush him up the middle, he is just very uncomfortable. I mean,
that's mobile. Like I feel like he hung his hat when he went to the Super Bowl. Like he was kind of hanging his hat on. He's like this young, play action guy, like he's moving in all these places. Like he can do play action, but his scrambling looks terrible.
Yeah,
I mean compared to guys with the contract that he has, his scrambling sucks.
He's a little he looks a little bit like a giraffe when he runs, where like a baby giraffe, where the stride gets a little too far out in front of him and stuff.
Baby Justin?
Yeah, baby Justin.
Well,
but
and the problem is, like, for the kind of I actually, Liam, I think you hit the nail on the head. For the amount of money he's being paid, like, you would expect him, if he's not going to be mobile, that he's going to be this incredible scrambler, and he's not.
Yeah, because if you're paying all this extra money,
And he's not that accurate.
Right. And so, like, if it's somebody who you can just fit in, what they call like the system quarterback, like if you're Sean McVay and you are planning all of these play actions, roll out this way, anybody can do that. But you pay like Rodgers or Wilson money for him to make the manifested play, and he's not doing that.
No, not at all.
I mean, the advanced stats say Goff has been not very good this year either. He's on average on third down, he's throwing the ball almost 2 yards behind the sticks to convert. He's only has 13 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and he has 7 fumbles this year.
Those are Carson Wentz numbers.
I think last week's a good microcosm for his season, where he has 300 yards, he completes 65% of his passes, but he has a pick, a really bad fumble, and he doesn't throw any touchdowns.
And he has like a 50 QBR.
Yeah. He is literally hanging around like the most average in most categories now.
That's just not worth the money. I can't figure out if it's worth paying the quarterback or not. I really can't. Like, you got to have the system guy. Like, if you find the system guy, your franchise quarterback, then you're set. But it just seems like so many quarterbacks overpaid right now.
Bucky Brooks at the NFL Network scouting department has said the next big innovation in terms of football and where teams can find advantages with the cap and where they can find advantages in team building is ultimately have a system they like and basically go with the college model, which is every 4 to 5 years, I'm going to draft or sign a new guy for not a lot of money who can run my system to the best of his abilities. And we are so good at scouting what we know, what we're looking for, that we can pay the quarterback whatever the rookie wage is and spend money on the infrastructure around them and just have the ultimate system.
I mean, that's basically what the Bills did. I mean, the Bills have been relying on paying guys like Mitch Morse, Trey White, these guys.
Bringing in Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown.
Diggs. Yeah, and we've been relying on Josh Allen to have a rookie contract. And, I can't even imagine what's going to happen if we don't make it out of the first playoff game and we then got to pay Josh a lot of money. I mean, obviously we're going to stick with him. Like, he's Buffalo's guy. We're going to stick with him for 3 years after we were supposed to get rid of him, no matter how long he stays.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like 0 playoff wins and are we going to reset the market? I mean,
no, I think based on the cap right now and the numbers I've sort of fudged around, I think the Bills at the end of this year will probably just pick up Allen's 5th-year option, kick the can down the road another year, be like next year is basically tell him next year it's kind of like this is it because we're going to have to sign you to this long-term extension after next year, and if it with that extension means we're going to have to take away pieces from you in order to pay you, and we're going to have to decide what that is, whether it's it's probably going to have to be you're not going to have John Brown back. You're probably not going to have one of these defenders that you really like, whether that be Tremaine Edmonds isn't getting a long-term contract or Micah Hyde isn't back, something like that. But, it's how much you believe in Josh Allen over the infrastructure.
It basically seems like these past couple of games, if Josh has a good game, we win. But if it's not a good game, like it could be medium to bad. If it's medium to bad, we lose. Because I would call that last game, obviously if he did, D-Hop doesn't make that catch, we win. But it was a medium game for him anyway.
Yeah,
medium,
it was a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give him a 5 or 6 out of 10. And in that Patriots game, I'd possibly even give him lower. Like, maybe a 4. And we skirted away with that one. We got off with that one. But with the Seahawks one, great game, we won. Rams, another example, great game, we won. He loves beating up on the Dolphins. That's a good team. We made them look silly. So I mean, unfortunately, it's all on him. Even when the defense, even though they have good and bad games, it always kind of seems like they put it into his hands. And when that's what the quarterback does. That's what you have to do to be the franchise guy. You gotta be like, not a great example, but Phillip Rivers is kind of known as like the fourth quarter comeback guy in like regular season games anyway. Like, in order to be the franchise guy, you have to get those fourth quarter 2-minute drills, go down the field, score some points, don't throw a pick, do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But even great quarterback, I mean, this is kind of all slurring together with a bunch of points I know we wanted to hit tonight. But I guess you can make it a more meta discussion. Even a great quarterback like Rodgers can't, you can't transcend every aspect of your system. I mean, as he's shown really since 2013 that, he can do. Rodgers from 13 to 17, let's say, was probably the best playing quarterback in the NFL, but the Packers never made the Super Bowl. None of those years. And I think it goes back to what Liam said, that even, if you're paying a guy all this money, you have to make these sacrifices other places. And even the greatest quarterbacks, it seemed like, really can't transcend all of that. I mean, if you look at the teams that have won the Super Bowl the last 10 years and you take out the New England Super Bowls, because I think that's a key in this, is probably to take out the New England Super Bowls. You've got Wentz and Foles on a rookie deal for Wentz. You got the Chiefs with Mahomes on a rookie deal. You've got the Broncos with the aging Peyton Manning, where they're only paying him $18 million a year to hang around. The Seahawks with Russ on a rookie deal. I mean, I guess really the only one that really transcends that, again, is maybe Eli with the Giants. But back then the quarterback market wasn't as oversaturated, where they weren't paying him a ton. I think
look at all the other guys. Look at all the other guys who are resetting the market. Now, obviously, Mahomes just recently did, and he's playing to that price. But I mean, when you look at guys like Goff and Wentz and Kirk Cousins,
Stafford and Ryan.
Yeah, literally any of those five guys. You tell me that they're playing to what they paid him, I'd have to disagree with you.
And, it's ultimately, too, with these big quarterback contracts, you're paying for past performance, not future investment.
Right. It's more like a reward than it's kind of like when you give like a fat scholarship to somebody from FM. Not to be mean to any of the FM guys out there. It's just like, when, coming from somebody who was a walk-on, when you have that controversy of, guys who did a lot and their scholarship is more just recognizing that they have some, they've got some national championship rings and you don't.
I mean, you get guys like Andrew and Bryce Millar who it ultimately.
No, right. Yeah. So that's the thing. I'm talking about like, other guys who, we've had visit in the past couple of years. I don't know. I'm not trying to make this about, it's Mac week. My head is elsewhere.
All right. Well, on that note, let's
very good meta conversation there.
Let's
about the nature of the salary cap and quarterbacking.
Oh, I love discussions about where money can be put. I mean, because that's really how the teams work.
Well, and it's funny because if you ask 20 different people, you might have like 15 different answers on the most important. I mean, the default by most people who just watch football and don't really dig into it will mostly say the quarterback. But if you ask people who do more than just, sit on their couch on Sundays and actually look at it, you're going to have a ton of different answers. You'll have people who might even say that, like, have a moderately priced team, but then, have good, like, make sure you invest in depth, kind of like what the Saints did with paying Jameis, like the Cowboys did with paying Dalton. People who are great at special teams have, like, special teams guys who no one's ever heard of, but they're making $2 million a year, and it's like
Matt
because
Slater in New England is making like $3 million a year to be the gunner and the emergency return guy.
Exactly, like you're gonna like, it's all about what you're trying to build your team around, and I mean, we could talk for hours on the best way to allocate resources.
That's
But
a good off-season podcast idea.
yeah. Okay. So going back to that Josh Allen point, I'm gonna give us a preemptive sad trombone.
Oh no, we're talking about Murray.
We got to talk about the Hail Murray real quick. Okay. So I'll go first just because, I don't want Seamus to go first because he's just going to be a downer on this whole thing. That that ending of that game sucked. Like, as a Bills fan, like, that pillow over my shoulder, like, it was rough. I'm not hitting the panic button. Do I think, like, if you look at Twitter or Facebook, it's like, should they have made that play at the end? Yes. Should the defense have, not let them get as far up as they did? Sure, you can argue that. The fact of the matter is, I do think the way that game was going in the second half, the Bills should not have won that game. We looked like we were going to steal it with that drive that Josh was able to put up at the end. And then give them, and oh my God, especially with the 3 pass plays with 3 minutes to go that the Cardinals did. Like, if they would have run that, taken our timeouts away, who knows? Especially because we couldn't stop the run at all. But no, they threw 3 pass plays. They didn't complete any of them. We kept our timeouts. I was happy for that at least. The catch at the end, that is an ungodly throw. It's almost a baseball style throw that Kyler Murray made. And that is an ungodly catch by one of the top 3 pass catchers in the entire league. I was stunned, but I wasn't, all the people who were like, F this game, like the Bills suck, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't there. I was like, well, that sucks. But we're 7-3 going into bye. I was when we knew that we had Seattle and Arizona, we were like, okay, if we can split those games, we'd be happy because we were expecting to lose Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that I was thinking about. I mean, the discussion before the Patriots-Bills game was that are the Bills going to become the new, bullies in the AFC East? And when we won that game, everybody was kind of like, yeah, I think that, they've kind of assumed that role. And a part of that role of going into every single game thinking you're going to win is the Patriots every year would lose that stupid game to the Dolphins where they had remember that play where Gronk fell and they got they did backs, they did the pitchbacks and all that. And everybody was like, God, that's so stupid. What a mental error by the Patriots. But I think this game is a testament to the fact that it takes a lot to beat this Bills team. I mean, a lot. You're talking about either it's got to be Derrick Henry, probably the best running back in the league. It's got to be Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, or DeAndre Hopkins, the best wide receiver in the league. I'm okay with that. I mean, if you isolate those 3 players, that's a little, existential. But, I mean, the Bills really lost to the 3 best players in the league. I mean, if you're looking for a positive, it's at least that it wasn't like a bad team that beat us. Like, it wasn't like we dropped one to the bad Patriots with Cam Newton. If we had dropped that game, I would have been like, oh, well, Jesus, like this sucks. But I mean, a great play. You just got to be like, you just got to shake your head and be like, man, that sucks. But I mean, like, almost good, like.
And when you look at the fact that our combined losses the records of our combined losses are 20-7, and it's like that. And Seamus and I were talking about it the other day. We have the best. Did we say we have the best record of wins?
We have the most wins against teams with winning records in the NFL. We have and it could go up another one this week too if the Pats were to win this week as well. I think ultimately, what bothered me the most about it, more or less, is I think the existential threat of losing the division. Because I think if you were a Bills fan, the one thing you probably said you wanted most out of this year, besides a playoff win, is the division. To win one division title. Because it tells you you've at least overcome some of your Patriots yips, and you've overcome whatever circumstances you have to win the division. And I think just with the Bills' schedule being what it is the rest of the way, I think it's going to be harder now. I mean, really, I don't know if the Bills lose more than another game before that final week. I really the Bills will be favored in every game they play the rest of the season except the Pittsburgh game, is my assumption. And even then, if Pittsburgh loses before then, I think there's a world where the Bills might actually end up favored. But I mean, yeah, I think what bothered me the most is just I really want the division for this team this year, just because it's something, Sean McDermott can hang his hat on. I brought it up earlier to you guys off camera, but on WGR today they were talking about they were having the is Sean McDermott a good coach discussion. And if you take out the Peterman games, he's 30-22, but he has a point differential of 0. And you can argue that those first 2 years specifically, there are some absolute blowouts in there. Absolutely. The Baltimore Week 1 game with Nathan Peterman is disgusting. There's 2 Chargers games in there.
There was one game against the Saints.
Yeah, there are like 4 games where the Bills lost by a combined 150-something points.
Oh,
you could say, too, if you take those games out, he's plus 150 and 30-18. And his record with Josh Allen as a starter is fairly good. But, you want to see these signs of growth. And I think for Bills fans this year, that sign of growth outside of a playoff win is the division. And I think that is because, unfortunately, of that Hail Mary is now much more in question with the seemingly, like I brought up earlier, the seemingly incandescent play of the Miami Dolphins recently.
It just makes Week 17 a must-win. I mean, that's really the only way to go about it. I mean, unless they start
dropping. The Bills are +1 win going into Week 17. So if for some reason we were, say, 11-4, Miami was 10-5, we're locked. We win
because we are 4-0 in the division at the moment.
Yeah,
well, we'd be 5-0 if we were
beat New England.
Yeah. So there's a lot of scenarios where the Bills, that Week 17 game still isn't a must-win. And Miami still plays Kansas City, which I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry, Dolphins fans. I know Brian Flores is a defensive genius, but Pat Mahomes is going to dunk all over your team.
Oh, don't put us in the situation where we're going to have to eat those words, please.
I'll eat that one, but I mean, there's these
you say that until you have to, and then
yeah, I think a big problem that at least I see going forward, and the Miami people on their sports talk radio have been talking about it when they come on GR, the Buffalo thing, is just that they have a lot of guys on defense who are no names who are kind of playing out of their mind recently, and they're kind of
their secondary.
And if you wanted to have a pro Bills argument too, it's that the Bills have probably had the most injured defense in the NFL this year. We haven't had a single game where our top 3 corners have played this year. There's always been at least one missing, whether it be Norman, Wallace, or White.
And you could argue that the fact that we're 7-3 right now is incredible, given how it's felt like we've been battered since like Week 5.
Yeah, I mean, it started Week 1 when we lost Milano and Edwards.
Yep.
Yeah. Just fair losses. Like, I know it sounds like, median Bills talk, but you have to appreciate reasonable losses. The Titans, the Chiefs, the Cardinals, and that game was close. Like, not bad. I mean, with that performance, I think if we play the way that we played in that Cardinals game, I think we would give ourselves a chance to beat a team like the Steelers. Just, they've been playing close games recently. If the Bills make that drive, I mean, does Big Ben make that throw? I don't think so. Does Juju Smith-Schuster make that catch over 3 very good secondary players? I don't think so. That was the only wide receiver. That was probably one of the only wide receiver quarterback duos that could make that. I mean,
the only other one I'd say is Wilson and
DK. But other than that, I mean, I'm not even sure if DK would have had that. Like
maybe Mahomes and Kelsey. I think that's another one.
I don't know if Kelsey would have gotten down there that fast. I mean,
he had a lot. It was like I think 5.3 seconds till the throw.
He did scramble a little bit because Mario Addison was in his face, but decided to go for the tackle instead of doing what Jerry Hughes did to Russell Wilson and just get his hands up. He tried to make the tackle, missed it, gave him just enough time to make the throw. But we won't dwell too much on this. We'll give one more sad trombone for the loss. But Bills are 7-3 going into the bye. Hopefully, we'll be much healthier and ready for the Chargers come Week 12. All right. So just wanted to touch briefly. We'll get back to the AFC playoff picture, but I want to take it back to the NFC really quick because kind of a big storyline in the offseason, and now it's actually coming to fruition, is that now Jameis Winston is a starter again.
30-30.
The NFL's first and only true 30 for 30 is a starter once more in the NFL.
Stephen A. Smith's pick for Defensive Player of the Year. 3 picks.
Hoping to bring some W's to the – yeah, exactly, eating some W's. So, Liam, Drew Brees out for at least 2 weeks with rib fractures. That seems a bit short, but, at least 2 weeks. Do you think
James longer than that? If I had 5 fractured ribs and a collapsed lung, I'd be taking some time off. I'm not going to lie to you.
Especially if I'm 41 and I'm like, bro, I have saved your franchise. Like, I'm sitting out on this one.
Oh no. So here's the thing, right? So like last year he was out with the finger, right? Or the thumb or whatever it was.
Bridgewater.
And if I do recall, I think he went 5-0.
Yes, he did.
And so the other thing is Jameis Winston, I think didn't the Bucs go 8-8 last year?
Yeah.
So you're bringing in a quarterback who last year had a better win percentage than Teddy Bridgewater does now with the Panthers. So, in my mind, if with Sean Payton's scheme and with, they have Michael Thomas back, right? Yes, no?
Yeah, he's playing.
They have Michael Thomas back. Not Emmanuel Sanders?
COVID list, but I think
I mean they're playing the Falcons twice. I don't remember who their other game was, but I think they're fine.
I think the more interesting question is if this offense looks significantly better with Jameis, and let's assume that this is like the ideal scenario where Sean Payton and Drew Brees collectively have coached some of the higher risk taking mentality out of Jameis and that he plays within the scheme. But with the fact that he has the arm strength now to put the ball, where his average depth of throw is going to be more than 4 yards down the field, do you start trying to take a look at dude, I don't know if I want to make a change back to Drew Brees because yes, they've won games, but there's no metric that agrees that the Saints have been a good offense.
This could be the Jameis Winston's Nick Foles year. Isn't week 10, week 11, this was the scenario.
This is why you got it.
Yeah. Well, if you think about the stats from Jameis Winston last year, the team went 8-8. He threw 30 picks and 30 touchdowns, but he threw for 5,000 yards. And to be honest, I kind of put a little bit of that on Bruce Arians.
His system. Like Bruce Arians
he's an airmail guy. Like if you're throwing it that many times, and if you're throwing it deep, some of them were on Winston. He's got some really bad decision-making skills that I don't think Bruce was giving him enough slack for until, Tom Brady came in and they said, all right, well, now we've got Tom Brady. Like if Tom Brady had come to Tampa Bay, I think they still would have kept him.
Jameis got LASIK too, maybe LASIK eye surgery. All of a sudden, those numbers look a lot more crisp.
I feel like every professional athlete, even if they don't need LASIK, should just be getting LASIK. Like, isn't your eyesight even better than like a normal human after you get it? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
If it's not performance enhancing, like I'd be doing that. Like, if your job is to see depth of a player crossing in a route, like
12 miles an hour.
Yeah, if you're making tens of millions of dollars a year. It's like $2,000, isn't it? Jesus.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah. I think everybody should just be getting manufactured surgery to just make them, Did you have an eagle eye implanted into your face?
This just in, LASIK surgery is now put on the performance enhancement list.
Steph Curry got it, and obviously I think he was a pretty decent shooter before that, in my opinion. So I mean,
Flamethrower.
you can do without it. Though I loved the memes when it was like a blurry image of a hoop. Like this was the scoring champion for like a couple years, just like somewhere over there.
It's over here.
Well, I do think it'll be interesting to see it because I think that his offensive prowess is probably better than Breeze at this point. It's just a matter on can he not turn the ball over because you look at the score difference of the Buccaneers last year, despite
like
the fact that he had 30 picks plus 7 more fumbles.
And 7 pick sixes.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Like he just gave 42 points to the other team.
Like it's really I'm curious.
The Saints are going to have him check it down. I mean, if he's going to play anything like Drew Brees is, I mean, Drew Brees plays like an old man. If they had Jameis Winston doing that, he's going to be fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, real quick before we get to our heroes and goons, we have 9 teams in the AFC that are 6-3 or better. The way it stands right now, let me pull this back up.
I think I memorized this so many times this week because I just kept staring at it.
Number one is Pittsburgh.
Steelers.
Number 2 is Kansas City. Number 3 is Buffalo. Go Bills. Number 4 is Indy. 5, Vegas. 6, Miami. 7, Baltimore. With the 2 on the bubble being the Titans and the Browns. Fun fact: how fun is it? Or not fun fact. How fun is it to see the Patriots being in the hunt when it's something that the Bills have been used to for 15 years?
Yeah.
The hunt graphic is like the most. Is just like what it must feel like to be in purgatory.
Yep. All right, Seamus.
There's no better feeling than the 5-7 team in the hunt week 13 when the Bills are playing like the Broncos in Mile High, and you're like, all right, this starts the comeback.
All right, Seamus, we'll start with you. So we got 7 teams this year, so 2 are going to be out. Who do you think it's going to be and why?
I think Baltimore is one of your teams that I'm at least somewhat worried about, especially because they play that first place schedule. And they still have one more against Pittsburgh and one more against Cleveland, and I don't think Cleveland's going to get punched in the mouth by them again. I think Baltimore is having real problems on offense. I mean, New England made them look kind of inept, and now it seems like a lot of the receivers in Baltimore are starting to voice their displeasure with Lamar Jackson. At first it was Hollywood Brown tweeting. Now you've got Willie Snead and Devin Duvernay saying some stuff to the media too that, like, why are we not involved in this offense? I think there's real concern there. And I think Tennessee is the other team I'm concerned about missing, only because they still play, they're going to play the Colts again in a week. They're playing Baltimore this week in what really to me amounts is a loser is in real trouble game. But, it seems like all of a sudden Tannehill down 10 is
frail.
A lot like Cam Newton down 10, Baker Mayfield down 10, Lamar Jackson down 10, where it's like, oh, this is over. You're not coming back. You can't throw the ball. I mean, teams have seemingly figured out that if you bracket A.J. Brown and you really get in his face and dare Corey Brown and what's his name, the tight end Jonnu Smith to beat you, I don't know if they got the horses for it.
Yeah.
Not to mention one of the teams that's out right now, Cleveland, has a ridiculously easy schedule the rest of the way.
All right.
Cleveland, I think, is going to get to 11 wins just by sheer luck.
They were 2001, right? So are they? They were long. They're longer than the Bills were, right?
Yeah, longer. They have the longest playoff drought now.
Well, I'm just saying though, they were 2001, I believe. So this would be
19
years. Okay, as long as they're longer than the Bills. All right, Liam, who you got? Who's going to wind up on the outside looking in?
Outside looking in, one team that I like in the AFC that Seamus briefly mentioned Derek Carr, but I wanted to talk about him a little bit more. Is I think the Raiders are playing some fantastic football, and they've got a really young squad with Jacobs and Waller and forgetting the third.
Ruggs.
Ruggs, that's it. All right, mental breakdown there. Forgetting Ruggs. But I mean, they're playing good football, and what are they? Are they 6-3 as well, or what are
Yes,
they?
they are. They are the
They're the
top
5
wild
seed.
card.
Yeah, I see them. I mean, I see them staying there. They're or moving. Well, not in the
And
division.
you talked about like good losses. Their losses are to the Bills, are to the Bucks, and are to the Pats.
And
Which,
they beat the Chiefs.
yeah, and they have good losses.
So who do you have as your who do you think's missing of the top crew or
Give
the
me the
top
names again.
teams in the
I'm
AFC?
sorry. Can you give me the names again?
Oh, sorry.
I don't know why my camera's blurry all of a sudden.
So you have the Steelers, Chiefs, Bills, and Colts as your division leaders right now, and
Okay.
then 5 through 9 are the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Ravens. Those are your 3 that are in, with the 2 on the bubble, the Titans and the Browns.
I don't see the Browns. It's just too tough of a division. I mean, you can't. I don't think all 3 go from that division.
So my problem there with people not picking the Browns is just that their schedule is the easiest of any of those teams left.
They have the Eagles, the Jaguars, the Giants, and the Jets on their schedule. So that alone, in theory, could get them to 10 wins without even if they lose to the Titans, the Ravens, and the Steelers.
Well, I could see them also losing to the Giants. That's possible.
There's no faith in the Browns.
I don't trust Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
That's what it comes down to. I don't trust Baker Mayfield.
yeah. I don't trust Danny Dimes, but I could still see them pulling something out there.
Yeah. It always depends too, because I think the Steelers game is week 17 for them. I think that's their week. Is if Pittsburgh has the division and the 1 seed locked, they're not going to play anybody, which could be a big deal if you're Cleveland and you need to get to 11 wins. Because I think no matter what, the thing we can probably all agree on is there's a team that's going to get to 11 wins that isn't going to make the playoffs in the AFC, I think.
It's definitely looking like that.
I don't know. I could also see Mike Tomlin first of all, if they're on the cusp of 16 wins, or they're going to try and go for it. So I mean, if they're at 15-1, or if they're at 14-1, I could see him still stepping on the neck of the Browns. I mean, we all know that whole altercation that happened last year. Mike Tomlin is a man of power. He is not going to take that sitting down. No, they're gonna blow him out.
I love it. I think it's gonna wind up being strictly off of faith. I have a feeling that the Browns are going to be on the outside strictly because I can see them blowing one game that they definitely should win. Do I?
Could be the too. I mean,
I'm gonna jinx. I know I'm gonna jinx myself by saying this. I think I am gonna go with the Dolphins as the other one, primarily because they have won 5 in a row and Tua is playing well at the moment. But like we said before, the Dolphins' defense and special teams has been spotting them, at least 10 points a week. I don't that kind of margin, I feel like, is so unsustainable. But but
who knows?
But we
saying it now.
Exactly. They're 5-0 right now, so I could be eating this. Here, take this L. Take this L, eat this L. I can eat the L.
I think they definitely have a better idea in 2 weeks when Miami, they played Denver this week, and Denver, Drew Lock is terrible, and
I got Denver and Jets,
and he could be replaced. But that's a team that needs a draft quarterback again. Is Denver for the 3rd time in 5 years?
Don't let Elway get his hands on it. Just don't let him choose it this time. Like, he's already gotten it wrong 7 times.
Get him drunk and have him miss the draft.
There are literally 4 guys who I think are borderline can't miss guys this year. And knowing Elway, he'll take the 5th guy. Also, but I think this is a team this week that can at least get after Tua and make him uncomfortable. And I'd be curious. I want to see how they respond. The thing is, I think Locke's going to give him the ball 5 times.
Also
And
likely.
and it's
like
all the
Kyle
time.
Trask or somebody like that.
Kyle Trask.
Like, look at how many touchdowns he threw.
Trask is 5 because the 4 ahead of the 4, I think locks are Lawrence, Fields,
Book.
Lance. No, not Book. Book's 6.
What?
No, the 4 can't miss guys are Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance from North Dakota State, and the Mormon kid from BYU.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Ian Book, who just beat Clemson, who we can remember his name, and not the Mormon kid, I'm going to put him
You're
ahead.
talking Zach Wilson.
Yeah, Zach Wilson. Thank you, Zach Wilson. I'm just going off the big boards, and I've watched the Mormon kid a couple times. He has arm talent.
The Mormon kid.
Every BYU kid is the Mormon kid. All their distance runners are like the 26-year-old Mormon kids.
Okay. Well, then
you remember that? Remember when you go and
yeah.
you'd be like, "Oh, this is Connor McMillan. He's a 5th-year senior. He's 26."
Just
You're
got
like,
back
wait.
from a mission.
Wait, why are you 5 years older than me? And we're in the same race. You are an adult. I'm like half an adult.
Okay, so that's our main meat and potatoes. But now we get into the sweet stuff. Let's get into the fun stuff.
Dessert.
Let's talk about some shining stars of the week. Let's talk about some heroes of the week. This is the part where we talk about who we really liked this week. Seamus, we'll start with you. Who's your hero of the week?
My hero of the week is Fox's newest color commentator, Aqib Talib. Yo, this guy's awesome. He is legitimately my favorite color commentator I've heard in forever. Like, I don't know how we pick color guys for these broadcast networks. It's got to be one of the most vague processes as how all of a sudden, like, this guy is just in the booth. But I think so many of them are so generic, so boring. Like, they all say the same stuff. Aqib Talib is out here throwing a fit after every DPI call in the Washington football team Detroit game. He's just like he just has a more interesting perspective on the game, I guess, as like a DB than I've heard from like your traditional quarterback or offensive lineman guys. Like, I just love the perspective he gave. I thought he was really energetic. He was like he was so happy to be there calling that game, and I thought it was awesome.
Well, Aqib Talib, you, sir, have earned one of our heroes of the week, so all the power to you. All right, Liam, what you got for us?
As soon as I watched that game last week and I saw him finally get that Monday Night Football win, I knew that my hero had to be Mr. Kirk Cousins. You like that? You like that? I mean, just being a quarterback with that kind of contract on that pretty good of a team, to just be like, what was he 0-8 or 0-9?
0-9.
0-9 on Monday night. Like, how does that even happen? Like, for him to get that win over the Bears, stinking it up the place. Oh my gosh. I mean,
probably full season done too.
Yeah, I mean, just good for him. He's my hero.
Well, all the power to you, Kirk Cousins.
He knew well enough to just give it to Dalvin Cook. Even if Khalil Mack was just stopping him every time, it was still better to give it to Dalvin Cook for 3 yards than it was for him to throw it.
No. Well, I will list my hero of the week, and this is, I don't want to say this is a cop-out, but it's kind of it's not an individual person. I'm just going to say the entirety of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, 544 yards of offense. You had Tom Brady throw for 341 yards. Ronald Jones rushed for 192 yards. Holy hell, this is a professional football team that you played. So I'm going to have to give my hands to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. right. So, now we get to the fun part of the segment where we get to crap on people for what they did last week. And we are going to assign our Goon of the Week. All right, I'll start on this one. And this is someone who I have been consistently defecating on week in and week out. And I will continue to do so. My Goon of the Week is Mr. Matt Nagy. Your team was 5-1 at the lead of your division, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, you got the Packers, you got the Vikings, and you got the Lions, who are supposed to be somewhat decent this year. They've been supposed to be decent for 10 years, but you're 5-1. This is your division, and now here you stand at 5-5. Oh my goodness, and it's like even the games that they are close, they're like not like this.
You never feel like they're gonna win.
Exactly. I have zero confidence. Matt Nagy needs to be out of there. As soon as they were 5-1, they're like, "Holy hell, we actually have a chance to be good this year? Get him out of here! Like hurry, leave, Matt. We'll do better with ourselves." So, Matt Nagy is my Goon of the Week. Get out of here, please. Liam, we'll see what you're up to.
The Goon of the Week. I mean, when I was looking at these stats, I always like to try and do a little bit of background searching. Carson Wentz is
You stole mine.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal yours. But I mean, this man in his career, right? So this is including the numbers from this year, is 109 touchdowns to 47 interceptions. That's really good. Like if you were to extend that to the numbers that the other guys are at, that's a great stat. And with a Super Bowl under his belt, that's a recipe to possibly go to the Hall of Fame. But this season, he has 12 touchdowns to 12 interceptions and probably a bunch more fumbles since I've been watching the games. 58% completion percentage, and he just lost to Danny Dimes. Mr. Turning over the ball. You out-turned over the ball to Danny Dimes. You out-pizza'd the Hut. You can't do that. I mean, it's really outstanding. He's making all this money, and Nick Foles is out, also not doing all that well. But I mean, holy cow! This team beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. This guy was on that team. This guy won 11 games. Goon.
Carson Wentz. We got to give you the sad trombone for
that. The gooniest of goons. That's why two of us picked him without even saying it.
Oh, well, Seamus, if you want to talk about someone,
I got a backup.
Okay, you have a backup?
I got a really bad quarterback. All right, this quarterback has started 7 games this year. He's only completed 55% of his passes for 1,500 yards. He has 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 5 fumbles. Who am I talking about?
My guess is Drew Lock.
It is Drew Lock.
Yay!
What are you doing? You are Josh Allen without the fun. You are literally rookie year Josh Allen with none of the fun stuff. None of the glimpses of hope. How have you won any games? I mean, he leads the league in 3 and outs. He leads the league in drives gaining less than 10 yards this year. He leads the league in turnovers per times he touches the ball. So while some guys may have more interceptions and fumbles, they've also played far more games than Drew Lock, at least 2 more games than Drew Lock. Looking at you, Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz. I mean, really, you give the Goon of the Week to John Elway for like half a decade now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the list is like what? Brock Osweiler,
Trevor Siemian.
Yeah.
Who's the one? There was one in the middle there though, who he liked and then quickly gave up on. I think it was another Missouri quarterback too.
It was a guy who was also there with Trevor Siemian.
But I mean, this guy's just whiffed every quarterback pick he's had for what, half a decade now, and we just have we got no repercussions there.
Paxton Lynch.
There we go, from Memphis. Yeah, there we go. I mean,
so those are some pretty good
Lock,
goons.
but secondarily also John Elway. The problem with Elway too is it's gonna just take a lot to fire him. Like he is much like if Jim Kelly was the GM of the Bills, it'd just take a lot to fire him. Like I think it's gonna take a lot. The ownership group is married to him, whether they want to be or not.
Not to throw in a recency bias, but I will say that I was thinking about, and I ultimately went against because that would be unfair. I was thinking about Russell Wilson because he has a combined 7 turnovers in the last 2 weeks, but that he's also a very, very good quarterback. That is usually the only reason his team is in any game, especially the last 2 weeks when they have not had Chris Carson and they have not had Carlos Hyde. So,
who I believe both are active tonight.
They should be, but I think they were game time decisions. Okay, and now, the best part of the show. The only reason anyone even tries to watch. We shouldn't when we upload to YouTube, we shouldn't even include the first 58 minutes. We should only include this. It is time for this week's Hot Takes. The part where we say things that make you think, what the hell are you guys talking about? You do not know football. But you know what? We know just enough to put up something that might happen. It probably won't, but it might. Seamus.
Yep, I got one.
What do you got this week?
All right, let's go to Monday Night Football this week. Monday Night Football is not a joke for the first time in a couple of weeks. The LA Rams are visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I want to believe in Jameis Winston winning the division. In order for that to happen, I'm going to bet on Mr. Jared Goff here. Jared Goff throws for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns this week. The Rams beat the the Bucks by at least 14 on Monday Night Football. I think it's a dominant performance from the Rams. I think Aaron Donald plays great. Jalen Ramsey copies the Marshawn Lattimore playbook and makes Mike Evans a 0. Goff looks competent. Let's go for it. Sean McVay, you're a better coach than Bruce Arians. Win this matchup.
Wow. All right. You know what? Something like that deserves a little bit of an air horn. All right, Liam. Oh, looks like it's getting hot over there. Is it warm?
It is very warm, despite me not turning the heat on in my house to save money. Now, this, whenever you pick a team in a division to beat a team again, like they played once already and they won, you'd say, did I steal yours? Oh,
just go with it. Go with
it. The formerly Oakland, now Las Vegas Raiders beat the Chiefs for the second time this season. That is such a specific hot take. How did I steal that from you?
You know what?
I thought you were going to go for Murray Magic and saying that Kyler was going to keep pulling things out of orifices and Russell Wilson in the panic meeting.
Murray is dead to me. I don't want him to succeed. But Derek Carr
wants him to succeed. That's for sure.
On the other hand, 16 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I think Seamus mentioned it earlier, completing almost 70% of his passes for 2,100 yards. He's having himself a little season right now too.
And he's played 2 games where 4/5 of his offensive line didn't play because of COVID.
What I think is amazing going into this is that this is the battle of quarterbacks who don't turn the ball over. So
combined 4 turnovers total this year if you include interceptions and fumbles.
Sunday Night Football is going to be insane, and I'm going to be all over that this week.
The primetime games are all good this week.
Yeah, it's
that song by Carrie Underwood is just going to hit a little bit different this week.
Oof. Yeah, let's give a little. All right, well,
last year's song was better though.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, on the fly, I'm having to come up with one, but I don't think this is as hot, but we'll see. It's something we already touched on. It was actually the other one I was flipping with, but Liam kind of forced my hand here. It's weird because I don't know if I believe it's going to happen, but it might. It just might happen. And isn't that the point of these hot takes? All right. These Denver Broncos, they've got a rowdy defense. They got an absolute dumpster fire of an offense. But you know what? When you have Drew Lock, all you have to say to yourself is, wait, you have Drew Lock going against the Miami Dolphins secondary. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to not put Drew Lock in a position to turn the ball over. I'm going to hand off to Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. I'm going to do all halfback tackles, and I'm going to do a lot of dump-offs. And I'm going to tell my defense, blitz the hell out of Tua and hurt that man. Not actually, I'm not condoning that. We're not doing the bounty system.
Bounty gate!
Bounty gate!
Bounty gate!
But I think...
Signed Montez Burfict to a 1 year.
But one game.
Right?
1 game.
But he's suspended for the year, I think. That's why he's not on the team.
I feel like that the Broncos are going to get after Tua, and if once Tua takes his first truck stick in the NFL, I think he's gonna be like, oh wait, I don't like that, and I'm gonna go full Sam Darnold mode and kind of cower away every time I throw the ball, because as Seamus and I were talking about before, he is very poor at zipping it into pockets. He needs to have that little bit of space to float it in.
So this is actually a really good point about Tua's. So, the reason Tua dropped in the draft, I'd say where it became clear that Burrow was that number 1 pick was because of that hip injury Tua took. And Dan Orlovsky did a really good film breakdown on Tua's mechanics and the fact that when he plants with that front hip, in order to zip the ball, because Tua's a little bit smaller and that fulcrum's not as long, he has to really clear that front hip through to get the velocity on the ball. But he really hasn't been able to do that yet because when you come back from those major injuries, it's hard to really rip through, that injured part. And because of that, Tua's exit velocity on his ball has been pretty low. It's right around like the Drew Brees, Tom Brady exit velocity, which is in the lower third of the league. And when you get that A-gap pressure and you can't step up through the pocket, you're throwing off that back foot, which means you're not clearing that hip through even more, and you really got to float the ball. And, you brought up about the blitzing from Denver, but they have good corners too. They have Charles Harris, who is very good. Simmons, the safety, is really good. Vic Fangio's, that great Bears team from 2 years ago, was Vic Fangio defense. Another good game to watch out for, too. We were talking about how stacked the primetime games are, is America's Game of the Week this week. The Packers are 7-2 going to
the Colts at 6-3.
Yeah, that's an interesting game, too, because, the type of team that beats the Packers generally is a team that is going to run for like 300 yards, and Frank Reich would much prefer to run for 300 yards than give Phillip Rivers the ball.
I think anyone
would not like Phillip Rivers. I do not think he trusts Phillip Rivers very much.
I mean, I don't think too many people do at this rate.
Phillip Rivers
trusts Phillip Rivers.
Phillip
would be like, you know what? Run the ball.
Phillip would be like, you know what? I just want to get home safe to my 11 kids.
Yeah,
the YOLO ball meter. Like Josh Allen throws like 10 out of 10 YOLO balls sometimes, where you're just like, oh, where is that going? Phillip Rivers is up there on like the YOLO ball meter.
My favorite is Pat Mahomes, Tyreek somewhere over there.
just like Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs.
He's over there. He'll get it.
It happens. I mean, it seems to work.
Who actually I think this year has thrown the most 50-50 balls, though, by far, is Carson Wentz.
And most of the times it's on the wrong side of the 50.
Every ball he throws has been like this insane, like, oh my God, broke him over 2 people. Or like, and Wentz throws into triple coverage again and is intercepted.
All right.
See, but the fans like that. The fans want guys who take those risks, though.
But not if they're going to miss it every time.
Yes, only if you miss it every time, then we will be upset.
That's why we haven't gotten too sick of Allen yet, because here and there he'll make it work.
Yeah.
All right, so we have gone about 15 minutes over what we normally do. How ironic! We have fewer people and we actually take longer. What do we do?
Well, we had that meta discussion about salary cap.
Well, either way, gentlemen, this was quite an event. We'd like to wish a good luck to the UB Bulls as they compete this weekend. And we don't even have to say go Bills this week because
Bye week.
they're on a bye week. So this will be yes. Instead, we will replace it with a go Bulls. Seamus, Liam, as always, it has been a pleasure. And with everything else, I think we are good to go. So I am Coach Chev, and this has been Highly Disputed. Gentlemen, we will see you next week. And everyone, we will see you next time. Take care.